Welcome to the Halftime Show, your world of sports in half the time. I'm Meghan Macioce.
And I'm Becker. Tonight we're going to have a full lineup for you, from heated rivalries to surprising teams, and of course, the tight wildcard race in the MLB.
The NL wildcard race is coming down to the final games of the season. There are currently 5 teams battling for those 2 final wildcard spots. And to talk about the MLB, we're going to bring in Sara Mackulin, who's our MLB expert. And we're going to start off with the NL. It's extremely close. There's 5 teams right now. Who knows what's going to happen? So, Sara, what do you see right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now, obviously, it's the Brewers and the Cardinals and those top 2 spots. I really don't see that changing. The only team I could see sliding in is the Dodgers, taking out the place for the Cardinals. The Brewers have been good all season, and I don't think that's going to change. They've played pretty consistent, and I think they'll be fine with that. And the Cardinals, I just don't think they're going to make it. I think this hot streak could have kind of happened to anyone. The Pirates, for example, had a hot streak, and then they just fell off the wagon pretty badly. But I think the Cardinals are just kind of, they're okay, but they still have a lot of young guys. Their pitching staff really isn't that great. So I think they're going to probably fall out of that wild card race, and you're going to see the Dodgers come in. I mean, I don't like to root for the Dodgers because they like to load up, spend all that money that some of the lower teams can't. But I see them, I mean, they have Manny Machado, they have those big name guys. It's kind of impossible. I would see it as impossible for them not to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to go far. I think they're going to lose the wild card. But I see the 2 wild card spots going to the Brewers and the Dodgers. And then with the Colorado, I think they're going to maintain over Arizona.
Yeah, now talking about the St. Louis Cardinals, their third baseman, Matt Carpenter, he's hitting .270 right now. He has 35 home runs. Now, something's been blowing up on Twitter about him, though, because he has so many home runs. He's been eating hot sauce before every game. What's up with this magic sauce?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think the salsa is not behind what he's doing on the field, and I don't think it is. I mean, Matt Carpenter's a veteran player. He's had hot streaks before in the past, and the salsa hasn't been the reason behind it.
No.
So I'd like to say that it's not to the salsa. I think, though, it is helping the Cardinals kind of get that hot streak and keep it going with the social media play, the fan playing and everything. It's bringing more fans to the ballpark. T-shirts are being made and everything. He has his own slogan. So I think it's more just like a publicity. It helps with them. It has nothing to do with how he's doing. But if he continues being that hot, I mean, I know I said St. Louis might not make it, but with a guy like that, it's hard not to.
Yeah.
And the Cubs right now, they're sitting there at the #1 spot. They're only a game up on the Brewers. How do you see that going, since the Brewers and the Cubs do play each other within these final weeks?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out. I mean, I like the Brewers better than the Cubs, I think, because the Brewers, they've kind of, this is their year. I feel like they transitioned kind of last year. They added some big names over the offseason. Usually it takes a couple years to get into that, and they've been kind of working towards that. I think the only thing that they have against them is their pitching staff isn't phenomenal. They have the bats. They have that offensive power to keep them in games. So that's the only thing with them. But with the Cubs, they do have the offensive power, and they have a decent pitching staff. But they have those big-name guys like Quintana and John Lester and stuff, but they've been known to have rocky starts. I mean, John Lester can't win against the Pirates. I mean, I think he did once this season, but, I mean, that was last season when we put 10 runs up on him on the first inning. So they do have some weak spots in those veteran pitchers, but I think the Cubs are going to win the division. But I think the Brewers are going to go longer in the playoffs.
And with Chris Bryant back, what's his impact going to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, you can't put a price on Chris Bryant. I mean, they've definitely missed him, and he's definitely going to be that consistent batter in the game. So, like I said, I think that's going to put them in this next upcoming series with the Brewers. I think the Cubs are going to take it over, and they're going to secure the division. But like I said, I think I like Milwaukee's chances in the playoffs.
So switching over to the NL West, because that's just as close between the Rockies, the D-backs, and the Dodgers. Very close. The Dodgers are about like a game back from the Rockies. How do you see that going, since the Rockies in these last couple of weeks, they play the D-backs twice? They're in a 4-game series right now, and then they play them again for a 3-game series in a week.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rockies are in first place in their division for a reason. I think they're the best team in that division. Their offense is just crazy good, but also you have to take into account where they play. I mean, that does help, having half of your games at that stadium where it's easy to hit the long ball. But I think they're the best team in there. I think I think the Diamondbacks, as much as I'd like, they have a good pitching staff, but I just don't think they have it just quite yet. I'd like to see Paul Goldschmidt get in because I'm a big fan of him, but I think it's going to stay the Rockies. Unless Arizona may give them some trouble. It's not going to be an easy road for them. But if they get through that Arizona series, they have a division, and they're going to have an edge over the Dodgers in the playoffs.
So who do you have in the wild card game then, from both the AL and the NL?
So for the NL, I have then the Brewers and the Dodgers, and then for the AL, I'm not so sure.
The Astros are pretty hot right now.
Yeah, I mean the Astros definitely more. It's the Athletics. I'm a big Athletics fan, so I'd like to see them pull it out. I mean, it's kind of like the Cinderella story. You look back to the Moneyball; it's one of my favorite movies, and
it's a great movie.
So I'd like to see them definitely get in it, and I think if they get in it, they're gonna go far, just because they're riding on that high. And now sometimes in the playoffs, it gets more down to skill than on that high, but they have those skill players, so I think the hot streak for them will continue.
And then who do you have in the National League Division Series and then the American League
So
Division
National
Series?
League Division Series, I'm taking a gamble with the Braves.
All right.
Not many people expected them to do as well as they have this season. They have a lot of young talent. So the pitching staff is but they have those good 1-2 punch. So I think I'm going to take a risk and go with the Braves. And as much as to me, it's between the Brewers and the Cubs. I don't want to say the Cubs because I don't like the Cubs, and I'm going to be biased. I don't even care. But I'm going to go with the Brewers just because I think their offensive power is too strong, and I think they're playing more consistently throughout the entire season. They really didn't have any really big highs, but they didn't have any lows. The Cubs have been kind of up and down more consistently now towards the tail end of the season, but that's who I pick. And then for the AL, you can't count out Boston. I think it's going to be their year. They're mad. They're going for revenge after last season not making it when they had just as good of a team last season as they do now. So I have them in it, possibly my pick to win the World Series. And then also the Cleveland Indians. I think the Astros, as much as they won last year and they have pretty much the same team, I just think they're not going to get there this year.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for your MLB analysis. It is superb, as always. And after the break, we're going to dive into the NFL as they just kicked off this weekend. We'll see you back here in 1 minute.
Let's go.
With the MLB wrapping up, we're heading into the NFL as they just kicked off their season this weekend. And there are some big names that might ring a bell in the headlines this week. To bring in our NFL analysts, let's head over to Jeff and Robert. And Jeff, can you tell me whose name was in the headlines this weekend?
Wait, Le'Veon who? That doesn't quite ring a bell. So, yeah, Le'Veon Bell, he did not play in the first game of the season. But you know what? James Conner stepped up and ran for 135 yards on 31 attempts and scored 2 touchdowns. So he had a pretty impressive performance in the first game. And,
exactly. He's leading the league right now in rushing yards, which is pretty impressive for his first game. It was a rain out pretty much, so we had to run the ball. So we had to have those opportunities, but honestly, I'm fine with him sticking around because Steelers, we have all the receivers we need. We have a good quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, so it's not like we're heavily reliant on Le'Veon Bell this year.
Exactly. But you know what? We're not going to talk about the Steelers because they tied with the Browns. So they don't really deserve the airtime this week.
That was a rough one.
But you know who does deserve the airtime this week? The Bears. What did you see in that game, Aaron?
Wow, the Chicago Bears lit it up on Sunday night. Now, they did fall short to Green Bay, but Aaron Rodgers making an incredible comeback there. But the Bears are loaded this season. I think they're going to be one of the most surprising teams this year. They have Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback coming into his second year, and they loaded that offense for him. And for the receiving core, you have Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton at tight end. And that defense, you can't forget, Khalil Mack was added. He had an incredible game, a sack, a forced fumble, an interception for a touchdown. And don't forget about that rookie, number 8 overall, Roquan Smith at linebacker.
Absolutely. The Bears are incredible. But another good team that no one really considered was the Buccaneers with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Jeff, Robert, what did you guys see in that game?
Well, with the Buccaneers, Fitzpatrick really had a great game. 417 yards passing, really impressive. Really relied on the long ball, too. 58 yards for one, 10, and 38 for another. Really good passing plays, and they actually threw on first down 14 times, keeping that defense on their toes, which is really what you need to do to make those passing plays happen.
And I think we need to keep in mind that this was the first game with their brand new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. So, I mean, I'm pretty impressed from what I've seen. I mean, they're putting up 48 points against Drew Brees. So I think we have a lot more in store for the rest of the season with the Buccaneers.
Definitely. And that Saints defense, they were one of the top defenses last year, so I was extremely disappointed in them. But real quick, because I want to hear from all three of you on this, with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. First of all, he didn't even use Travis Kelce. He had 6 yards, which he was one of the top receivers, even though he's technically a tight end. He was one of their top receivers last year for Alex Smith. And they also didn't really use the run game with Kareem Hunt only at 69 yards. So, Aaron, what did you see from Mahomes?
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes has a huge arm. There's been comparisons to Brett Favre. And, that's some big company already as he's, just starting his NFL career. He just got his first start, and they got the win. But the guy that exploded for him was Tyreek Hill. He had, I think, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he had a punt return for a touchdown as well. This, right now, I'm throwing it out here, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, one of the most wide receiver quarterback dynamic duos in the league right now. This season, they're going to light it up. Watch.
That reminded me of Tom Brady and Randy Moss. Ooh. But Jeff and Robert, you tell me, he had 5 touchdowns over 400 yards. What did you guys see from Mahomes?
15 from 27 on the passing attempts. It's a very impressive on your first game of the season. He really showed he was calm, in control. In that season, watching Mark Sanchez really just improved his football smarts and really just improved his intelligence for the game, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think, this Chiefs offense is something that we haven't seen in previous years. So I'm really excited to, see how they're going to move forward from this game and see if they're going to stay consistent throughout the season.
Thanks, guys. Your NFL expertise is always on point. But let's move in from the NFL to the NCAA football. However, we got to talk Pitt, Penn State. Hello, we're from Pittsburgh.
Obviously.
Aaron, you and I were both at that game. Yeah. So what did you see from Pitt? Because this has been one of the most talked about matchups probably all season. I mean, we were calling it the Super Bowl at Pitt.
Yeah, I think this game was almost the tale of two halves. Penn State and Pitt, they were neck at neck the entire first half. 7-6 for the majority of it, and Pitt pretty much the underdog in this. Penn State had a great year last year. Saquon Barkley, he's in the NFL now, but Penn State has been growing itself back up, and Pitt, they stuck with them, but after a while they got down themselves. The conditions were really, really bad. I was up top trying to stay out of the rain. But, I think Pitt just got down on themselves, especially after the safety going for it on 4th down, too.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out for them then.
That's kind of what I saw. I mean, I really thought it was going to be a closer game because Penn State, went into overtime with Appalachian State, who was ranked 53rd. Yeah. So I think that really got into Pitt that they could possibly compete with this team, which they could. I mean, the Penn State lost a lot of receivers last year. Yeah. They lost Saquon Barkley. Trace McSorley, I know he's being scouted right now as a Heisman candidate. I don't know if that's overrated or not. But I really believed in Kenny Pickett since his first start last year was versus Miami, and they won. So I definitely thought that Pitt would have a better showing. Yeah. But I really think that 4th and 3, whenever they went for it and didn't kick it, I think is kind of what just gave Penn State that momentum, and they never got it back. But the second half was just ugly from Pitt.
Yeah, and momentum is really a big thing in football, and the mentality. Football is a physical game, but once you get down on yourselves, which I really saw happen in this game for Pitt, the game is done for you. When they were down 17-0 after that safety, I think that was one of the biggest turning points in the game when Penn State was able to just take it away. Pitt got down on themselves, and it was all Penn State from there.
It was bad, and it's really hard. Once you lose the momentum, it's extremely, extremely hard to get it back, especially in college sports.
Very true.
But thank you for joining us here on the Halftime Show. We'll see you next week with a full recap of the college rankings, the NFL, and the MLB.